Welcome to the Be About It podcast. My name is Ben Mercedes, and I'll be your host. We'll cover financial and crypto markets, real estate, and entrepreneurship. My goal is to inspire others to be about it and take action. In episode 5, I sit down with Bleejay Innis, and we discuss his journey from fleeing war in Liberia as a child to working for a private jet firm in LA and returning back to Liberia, now working in private real estate development. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Bleejay, I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to having the discussion that we're going to have. Why don't you tell everyone, who you are and a little bit about, what you're up to in Liberia?
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be here on this platform. Name is Bleejay Innis. For those who do not know me, I am originally from Liberia, West Africa. Was born there, left when I was 6-7 years old during a civil war in the country.
Crazy.
Came to America, grew up mostly in America. That's where we connected and went to high school together. And now I find myself working back in Liberia. So came back full circle, and it's all a blessing. Excited.
Yeah, that's incredible. Talk about, that journey. You got here at what age?
7 years old.
And you went straight into elementary?
Yeah,
Middle?
7 years old. Yeah, I came straight into elementary school. I was living down south.
Now, did you know English at that point?
Yeah, I knew English.
Gotcha.
Yeah, English is a primary language in Liberia. We have our local dialects that we speak, but English is the primary language for most of the country. So gotcha. Of course, I had the accent when I first came, but still understood English, could speak English. So that was a good thing compared to a lot of other immigrants who come where English is a barrier.
Gives you a leg up, man. I think about my dad. He was one of the first Dominicans in this area, and when he got to New York, he didn't really know English. He was a teenager. He's probably like 11, right? So, as you said, that language is a barrier. So you're from Liberia. You've obviously high school, college degrees. You're now back doing business in Liberia. Let's talk about Buchanan.
Yeah, so Buchanan is a architecture and construction firm. We like to call ourselves a design build firm. So we design and carry out the contracting. I am the head of operations for Buchanan. And our company is probably about, we're almost 2 years old in Liberia. So I studied international business in undergrad and studied real estate development in grad school. And Buchanan was it's a match made in heaven. I was looking for means and ways to connect back with the continent. How do I work? How do I give my skills? How do I give my resources and my education back to my country in some way? And partnered with a US based construction firm called H&H Enterprises. The CEO of that company, ironically, he's a pastor, but he's also the head of a major construction company. He was going to Liberia. He got invited by my dad to go to Liberia on a church mission trip. My dad met him and said, "Hey, I want you to meet my son. My son is into construction. He's into business. It'd be great for you to meet him." I just happened to be in Liberia during that time, and he and I met. And we stayed in touch. And, one day he reached out and said, "Hey, I want to help people back in Liberia, but I don't want to be the typical American that's just giving money to starving kids or just paying school fees for kids. I want to create real sustainable change and development. What would it take for us to bring our minds and our heads together to start a construction company that could be a competitive company and give Liberians some work to do and develop their skill set?" So that's how that company was birthed. And now I find myself basically living my dream job. And it's a lot of work, but they say when you're having fun, you never work a day in your life. So it's been an exciting journey.
Yeah, I consistently look up and I see you posting things in Liberia development and your updates, and it always reminds me of like the Dominican Republic. Even from like an infrastructure standpoint, right? Yeah. My parents went, or my dad and my sisters went to the Dominican Republic, and they're like, it works good in the capital, like a GPS. Like everything's good in the capital, and then the further out you go, like your GPS starts working, and it becomes a whole different place. And it's like you're in a position where you can literally bring innovative real estate. You can realize it in whatever form of building, be it residential, commercial, and you're able to capitalize on that in a space that seems like there's a huge market for that.
Huge opportunity.
What are the returns like on something like, projects that you guys are working on?
Well, on the construction side, we serve kind of as a general contractor, right? So private and public clients are hiring us to execute their architectural work or their construction projects. So, for us, it's, we're charging the base rates on doing those projects, whatever our profit and our overhead is, we charge that, we execute the project and we get that done. I have another company called Akimba Investment Group. That's a real estate development and an investment firm that's focused more so on the ROIs and cash flows. And, projects vary, man. To give you an example, when I first started traveling back to Liberia and we started Akimba Investment Group, and I was just researching real estate in the market in a capital city in one of the prominent neighborhoods, average one bedroom was as high as $2,500 per month. $2,500 per month, right? So although that
sounds like Boston.
It's crazy. Although that didn't represent the masses of the people, that represented the expat communities, that represented the foreign nationals and companies that were in the country, it showed you that there was a high demand for quality properties. And there was a low supply in the market. So I started doing a lot of research, and we realized that people were making 80, sometimes close to 100% returns on their investments, just because there's no market cap. To how much you can make. You're starting from ground zero. So, the sky is the limit to how much you can really make. But I would say, on average, some of the deals that we've structured and that we're looking at, you're looking anywhere between like 30 to 40, to 50% ROIs on some investment properties.
Nice. As we were talking about a little bit off air, there's a company called Roofstock. I think they sell like listed properties. So you would sell like turnkey properties in Liberia to an investor like me who wants to invest passively on like literally like I would purchase it. Maybe you would, help me in that purchase or maybe it would be your flip or your construction. But there's another company, I'm confusing the names, but this other company basically says, hey, we take on really big corporate and residential projects with investors, right? So you can actually buy in, you can, invest whatever amount you want, and then we're going to send you monthly, quarterly updates on what we're doing with those funds. So you're going to say, hey, you're going to see an update that says, hey, we just acquired a 16 apartment unit in Ohio. And then you're going to see another email that says, hey, we're acquiring a 52 story, apartment in downtown Miami or, whatever it is. The investor then gets, 10, 15% return. Statistically that matches like the S&P 500 and someone's 401k, but it gives them the benefit of saying, I'm diversifying my portfolio and I'm investing in real estate should the stock market correct like it did last year during the pandemic, right? So it becomes this store of value of where do I want to store my wealth or where do I even want to see growth or, what do I want to invest in that'll actually make me feel good? Like if you had a site that said, hey, try Buchanan or, whatever company name. And it said, we're going to fund projects in Liberia and you can expect to see 10 to 20% returns. I think a lot of Americans and, people in different markets might be open to that because it's a way for them to get into real estate passively while seeing a return and then still being updated on, the projects themselves and the change that's being done on the ground. So I think that's a whole business idea.
It is, man. It is.
And we talked about it. Like I had mentioned a Bitcoin mining fund. Like what if I wanted to create a farm, right? There's a lot of people who don't want to do the mining, but they want to passively invest in mining. So it's that same idea. And you're in the perfect spot, right? To put yourself in between, Airbnb rentals and even like corporate development.
Absolutely.
So talk about how, growing up here, you're an immigrant. What's the school life like? What's high school like? You got a few degrees. What is that like? You must feel like an overcomer. You got your dream job. It's almost like everything you wanted, you've gotten. How have you done that, sir?
Man, a lot of determination, a lot of faith, but you have to put in the work. I think for me, I've always been confident and believed in my abilities, even if I didn't know how to do something. I felt like I knew how to do it. I would say I knew how to do it just to put myself in a room, just to put myself in the field. As you know, I played football in high school and played sports in high school. So, for me, just being in that position of I was a captain of a football team. So, learning leadership. learning to be able to lead other people in something was very important. So, obviously coming as an immigrant, you get teased, you get made fun of because of your accent and how you dress and how you look and what you eat, all of that stuff, so for that's a hit. It's a hit to your confidence, as a young kid. But you have to be able to find yourself and you have to be able to rise up from it. And I think some of the most successful immigrant stories have been people who've taken that negative energy and have turned it into something positive. They flip that around. So for me, I've always had a chip on my shoulders and, always wanting to prove other people wrong. And, man, I just generally believed in myself, man. Shout out to my parents for instilling just confidence in who I am and being proud of who I am and where I come from. And I've held on to that for a long time, and that's put me in a lot of doors. And it's always been important for me to share my story. I think, things like podcasts give people an opportunity to share your story. Before there are podcasts, you have to be able to meet someone and be able to talk to someone,
have dinner with someone.
You have dinner with somebody, or read a book before you learn, how do I connect with this person? What do I take from this person? And that was something I was being taught how to do organically, whether I was in school or whether my first job out of college, I was putting myself in positions where, I would tell my story, tell people what I was passionate about. And one door opens up another door, one door opens up another door, and, find myself where I am now. Of course, not where I completely want to be, but it's a huge stepping stone, and it's a monumental, has been a lot of monumental achievements thus far.
Incredible work. Yeah. Following you is always awesome. I see the updates. I'm always proud. I see the designs through Buchanan. I followed when you were in the jet business. Let's talk about your experience in LA. You're a young man, young black man in LA. What was it like working in the private jet business? Man, it was wild, man. Yeah. It was crazy how I got connected to that. There was an internship program that I heard of when I was a junior in college. And they said, you can go anywhere that you want to go. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to just do an office or a desk job. I'm thinking, where am I going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now? And what company do I need to work for? So I'm looking through all these companies. I'm like, boring. I see private jet. I'm like, private jet? This means there's a lot of rich and wealthy people that I get to be around. So I applied for that internship. I got it. The CEO of the company said, man, a lot of people didn't even apply for this, but I love your story. I love your enthusiasm. Flew out to LA, started working for the company. They offered me a job for when I graduated. Incredible. Packed my bags and went out there. And again, like you said, I was the youngest person in the company. I was in my 20s. So how old was maybe the youngest person outside of you? Outside of me was 40. Okay. Yeah. So these were all like retired executives, retired movie stars and things who just needed something to do on the side. They were just leveraging their connections and calling up their friends to fly private. And I knew absolutely no one. So the CEO of the company, he would give me a Rolodex of business magazines and things. He said, man, start making calls, start calling people. How was that? Man, it was wild, bro. Yeah. And the crazy thing was, this was an unpaid job, right? So you're paid on commission. Paid on commission. But, he set incentives for me. He's like, man, I love your passion, your hustle, but here's what I'll do for you. I'll start certain incentives. You make a certain amount of calls, I'll pay you this much. He said, hey, I have a lot of meetings I go to. If you want to drive me around sometimes, you can do that and follow me. This man was driving a Range Rover. I get to drive a Range Rover around. And, I built that trust with him. And he even, he gave me his black card one time, and it was just like, man, go out to some of these nice lounges and things and go and prospect for business. So I would wear the only suit that I had, go out to like the SLL's hotel in LA, go out to the W and just sit there and look like I was somebody, and just meet somebody and just start talking to them and hey, this is who I am, this is what I do. And that's how I started building contacts, and I learned so much from that. Yeah, let's go back. Had you cold called before he handed you a Rolodex and said, I had never cold called before. So what was that like? Man, it was a lot of mistakes at first. At first he was such a busy guy. He didn't give me a script. He said, make some calls, talk about the company, and try to get some business. And I'm literally you can't hide from the other people in the room. It's just one room. All of us are sitting at cubicles and desks. So I'm there shy, afraid to say something stupid.
not realizing everybody else is about their money. They're not even, they don't care if I'm making a mistake or not at the end of the day. They'll capitalize on my mistake in an instant.
Right.
So,
in a room full of hyenas.
It was wild, bro. Like if you leave your leads on the desk, somebody's going to take it and call it. And you know, you'll be hearing about how they won that business. But my boss came around, he asked me, he's like, how many calls did you make? And I said, hey, I think I only made like 5 calls. He's like, man, you've been sitting here for how long? You've only made 5 calls? So he's like, come into my office. What's wrong? He's like, I know you're a confident guy. You know how to talk to people. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I told him I've never cold called before. That's why he wrote my first cold call script for me. Said, practice this script, go word by word.
I love it.
That's how I started practicing how to cold call. And then, you know, I got comfortable in the script and started, you know, deviating from it and creating something that worked for me.
I love it, man. So I've been in sales for a long time. I quit my job in 2018, as you know, to go full time with my wedding brand and my corporate brand. Even now, you know, there's still sales, but when my day job was sales, sometimes it would be 100 phone calls a day, and you get 10 people on the phone and you get rejected 5 times.
Exactly.
And there's something about like facing rejection every single day, and then finding that like glorious triumph of going from a cold call to a 5-figure deal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I think in general, like salespeople generally just have this extra grit and this extra determination, and they're able just to eat rejection and like still get to the next contact with positive energy. You have to, right? And ever since I've known you, it's been positive energy in adversity, faith, and just really good vibes, man. For sure. Like all around. And I've watched you go from, you know, acquiring degrees to LA in a jet business to international business. And I'm, you know, super proud to be a friend of yours and just to be able to hang out and podcast, man. So sure, man. It's good to catch up. Let's talk about, is there a demand for Airbnb in Liberia? Are you connecting yourself with that? What's that bridge look like? It's a huge demand, especially being in the construction space. I see and hear a whole lot. I mean, there are people who reach out to me consistently when someone's traveling to Liberia. They're reaching out and say, hey, I don't want to stay with my grandparents. I don't want to stay with my mom and my dad. Do you know somewhere where I can stay? Or they'll go on Airbnb.com and they won't see enough options, right? Or options that meet their standards. And they want luxury. They want luxury, and they're looking for demand, but the supply, you know, the supply is low, right? So that's opened up a whole nother avenue of business development for me and just opportunities that I'm pursuing. We have a couple projects right now. I have a couple projects that I'm pursuing that we're looking to take existing properties. And, you know, we have a lot of people who are leasing properties. So some people don't want to sell. So we're trying to take long-term land leases, not land leases, but long-term leases on the property, renovate the buildings, flip it, you know, make our money out of it. We're looking to acquire some. And there's just so much opportunity that's in the market right now, and it's wide open. Yeah. So as more people are traveling to Liberia for business, as more Liberians who fled the war or who are diasporans in the community are now seeing what Liberia is truly like through social media. They're seeing the beautiful beaches, they're seeing the food, they're seeing the entertainment, they're seeing everything else that, you know, it's not lions and tigers running all over the place, but it's like, civilization. Man, it's civilization, and it's life that, you know, that they're paying for. And some people are going to Bali and going to other places. And people are like, man, this is the same stuff that's in Africa, you know, but the difference in Africa is it's like you can literally own a piece of this. You know, like I posted something the other day on my LinkedIn of how, you know, I purchased a piece of land for my wife. And this is what it costs. What I paid for this, I paid a little over $6,000. Okay. What does that get you? It's 3 lots. So 4 lots is an acre. So a little under an acre. So I mean, this sits right on the river, and then the back view is the river. The front view is the Atlantic Ocean. So amazing, man. And I mean, for how much you think you're going to pay for that if you're in the U.S.? 6 figures, something at the least, something crazy, man. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of what I've been trying to do is, you know, by sharing a lot of the content when I'm back home, is to show people that, man, here's this opportunity here. You know, something that you may try to work your whole life for in America, you can easily attain it, you know, back home, because, you know, time is not going to wait on you. The next 10, 15, 20 years,
things are going to take off and things are going to be expensive, you're going to be regretting why did not invest back home, why didn't I do certain things, man. So for me, I'm as I'm home in the midst of challenges, I'm just looking at all the opportunities, and I know that I'm not focused on instant gratification. I know these are moves and decisions and things that are long-term plays that are going to play off of eventually in a positive way for me.
I love it. Now, what would, if you were going to make, say, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, I don't know, house near a beach or in a desirable location, what would that cost to build in Liberia?
So one of the biggest problems of why people don't like investing, or people hadn't invested in Africa before, weren't attracted to invest in Africa, was lack of data and information, right? So
absolutely,
business people make decisions off of data and information, right? So if you don't have the data, you don't have the information. I can't just come and sell you hope and a dream and say, hey, Ben, look, trust me,
2-bed, 2-bath,
right? Trust me, right? You're gonna say, show me the numbers. Let it make sense.
In America, you can use AirDNA, and it's going to give you Airbnb comps wherever you are.
Yeah,
2-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and I mean, like before the pandemic, we were looking at properties in Puerto Rico, and we're running the numbers, and it's like, all right, we can afford a mortgage, we can pay the cleaning fees, and we can cash flow X. So that's the first thing people are going to want in real estate anywhere, especially in Liberia or another country. So how do you acquire that kind of data?
Man, it's boots on the ground. I started getting on the ground. I started, for like apartment buildings, for instance, I was going, I was pretending to be a rentor, just prospecting. Hey, I'm looking to rent the space, getting that information. What are the rates? I'm doing measurements. Hey, how big is the space? So I'll times that. I'll say, okay, you have X amount of 2 bedrooms. They're 1,000, 1,200 square feet. Oh, how many units are in the whole building? Just by chance. There are 50 units in a building. Okay, I'm doing my calculation, accounting for common area space. I calculated, say, okay, this building cost them X amount of dollars to build. And I was doing the same thing in residential properties, asking people how much they
learning the structure.
Learning the structure, right? Yeah. So I started creating a database and saying, okay, for what I started creating categories. I'm like, okay, a middle income house in Liberia is going to cost you about $50 to $55 per square foot to build. A luxury property, it's going to cost you anywhere between like $65 upwards.
It's not that bad
per square foot to build. Yeah. The reason the most expensive part of building in Liberia is the materials, right? So,
now how are they in contrast to like America? What are they based out of? Is it concrete?
All the houses are built out of concrete. So no one's building out of, no one's building out of wood or or using what do you call it? Drywall. For instance, some people are now starting to use drywalls in commercial buildings, but that was not a thing before. And
you still have probably a concrete base.
Yeah, concrete base. Anyways. Walls. Yeah. So
always.
Yeah, but the market is changing, right? So people are on social media, they're on the internet, they're seeing design and development that's being done in other parts of the world. They're seeing other African countries and they're saying, hey, I want to live in homes like this. I want to visit retail buildings or commercial buildings like this. I want to be able to experience this. And one of the things that we're trying to do as a company is how do we position ourselves, to be able to be a thought leader in the market, right? So at least for us now, somebody can come and say, because there's always a loaded question. You have clients who say, hey, how much does it cost to build a 2-bedroom house? I'm like, I can't just answer that question. It's a pretty loaded question. It depends on what type of finishes do you want. It's like buying a new car. You can say, hey, do you want the basic package or do you want a limited and upgraded package, right? So it's the same thing as building a house, but we throw our averages and say, on average, we build at about like $50 to $55 per square foot, and we can decrease that cost based on decisions that you make on some of your finishing materials as well. So your finishes and your materials play a key factor into the price going up or the price decreasing.
I love it. What's your take on like container homes, or do you think that would be a profitable model there as well?
I think it's a big opportunity. I'm seeing that in a lot of other African markets. Liberia, for instance, Liberia. A lot of people don't know is one of the maritime leaders in the world. After Panama, Liberia's has one of the highest, the top ship registries in the world.
Wow.
So tons of empty shipping containers in Liberia, tons of containers in Liberia. Wow. We have a huge need for housing, especially for the masses. You have the average person who only lives on less than $1 a day in Liberia. The government's been looking at ways of how do we address low income housing? How do we address housing for people who've been squatting on certain areas? There's a slum community in Liberia called West Point. West Point looks like a location. When you see the location, it looks like something that should be in Miami, right? With the ocean and how it's situated. The government's been thinking, how do we get people off of this site for a very long time so that we can develop this place or give it to investors? But there's no vision or there's no plan. The government doesn't have the money to relocate these people and to build housing somewhere else. And the only answer to that is if you think about sustainable development. So can we use shipping container houses? Can we use other lower cost and sustainable and effective ways to be able to build housing for people that's not going to break the bank, of the government, but it's also going to be modern. It's going to be innovative, and we can start looking at some of these things. So these are conversations that our company wants to start having. We want to be a thought leader, like I said, in the market when it comes to innovation and different type of construction materials.
Yeah, when I think of the Airbnb market, literally in Puerto Rico, we're looking at land, and you can get land, that oversees the ocean for not a lot of money, but it's then developing that. And then if you want to develop that, how can you maximize that? How can I build out 5 steel container units to have 5 Airbnbs on one property that share one pool, right? This is free game.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can literally create an Airbnb community and have 5 units with rentals, with an ocean view, 5 minutes from the beach, 10 minutes from the beach. It sounds like, especially with containers and maritime, like I'm sure containers are cheaper there than obviously somewhere like here.
Absolutely.
So that sounds like an incredible model. I'm seeing even more and more, like in California, they're saying, how can we curb the homeless problem? And there are blueprints of like literally mini homes made out of steel. And it's literally like a bed, a small kitchen, and a small bathroom. But, as people closer to poverty, and some people just want to be free from possessions, right? We're seeing more of the tiny living stuff. So, it helps poor people who are literally sleeping on the streets. But if people want to live minimalist lifestyle, like that's trendy, those do really well on Airbnb. So that can be a whole subsidiary of the company.
I love it.
I love real estate.
I love it.
From what I see from your photos, I think I'd love Liberia. So we've talked about I have to take a trip anyways.
Oh yeah.
We should totally
that's coming soon.
We should totally do that and just make it a documentary or some film content.
Absolutely.
But it'd be great to see what you guys are doing, on the ground with projects. And just see the area, man.
Yeah, man. And a big passion of mine too, man. I think the world is so big, I believe in taking limits off of the globe, right? Absolutely. So America has shown that although we're here, America is not the only place to be able to invest. You have to diversify your assets. So I'm big on trying to get people to Liberia, trying to open up business opportunities and connect them with opportunities there as well, in other African countries as well. So, I'm big on trying to connect with people who are trying to tap into new opportunities, or even just taking a trip and say, hey, I want to take a 2-week trip. We can get a bunch of like-minded people together. We take a 2-week trip out there. We enjoy the culture, enjoy the fun, and we explore business opportunities and see how we build together. And I think one of the biggest satisfaction is being able to give knowledge to young local people, right? Like us, right? There's so many smart and hungry young people who are looking for opportunities. And, and one of the things I realized, just my presence back home has impacted so many young people. And I think that's what I feed into the most, man. So, when I see so many young people who are doing well, who are learning about cryptocurrencies, who are learning about stocks and foreign exchange markets, and all these different things, I'm like, man, how do we bring this stuff to educate people in other parts of the world who some of these people are geniuses, man. They could be the next inventor of the next big cryptocurrency and we don't even know it. How do we put them in position to get the knowledge so that they succeed? Because their success is ultimately our success.
I love it, man. Yeah. A lot of the posts I see, you're talking about the youth, you're with the youth, you're doing projects. And I say, man, Bleejay is someone who cares about the next generation and he cares about Liberia. So I think that's remarkable. Literally every friend that I can think of from Liberia, from Ghana, they're the hardest workers in the room. They work 3-4 jobs. They have degrees, and they send remittance back home.
Yeah.
You guys are just like workhorses. I don't know how you guys consistently do it. I think it's incredible that you can literally flee war, come here, get an education, and now you're doing international business. I think that's incredible. We talked a little bit about, I watch the History Channel, and they have that series on, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan. We're watching, steel come to America, and we're watching New York City go vertical, and it literally changed the world. We're talking about connecting the East to the West with a steel bridge. And now, just like maritime and Liberia, we're seeing, horse and buggy back then create this new world, right? And from what you're saying, there's so much opportunity in Liberia where you can literally implement infrastructure and things that work in America there
easily
on a big scale. So I think that's tremendous. Talk to me about a book that has changed your life.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite books I read in college, Never Eat Alone. Never Eat Alone is a book about building personal relationships, and that completely just changed my life. That was a book that I read before I moved out to LA, and that's what kind of ignited just how I moved when I was working the private jet in LA. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes in the book, the author Keith Ferrazzi talks about how he grew up poor and he was working on a golf course and saw how the wealthy interacted with each other. They helped their kids get into the best schools. They supported each other's businesses. They taught each other things about finances. And he moved and he said, man, I realized that poverty just isn't a lack of financial resources. It's a lack of access to people and information that can help you make more of yourself. And man, that was so real, and it hit hard so much when I read that. And I'm like, man, that's how the world works. It's you either have the network and the connection, or you have the knowledge. And if you're not in position to be around people who can help you make more of yourself, or if you're not feeding into knowledge and information that's going to help you make more of yourself, you're going to remain stuck, right? You're going to remain a slave to work. You're going to remain a slave to money for the rest of your life. And that book just changed my perspective. And I'm like, even if I don't have the capital, the hard-earned capital, I have to put myself in a room or get connected to people who have the information or who have the resources that I'm going to need in order to be able to excel and achieve my goals. So Never Eat Alone. Love it. I have tons of other books, but that book in particular is a book that I go back and I read it once a year. I go back to it over and over to pick up new gems from it.
I do that with a few books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad being one. How to Win Friends and Influence People being another. Fantastic books. But yeah, those are things that just like you want them to kind of shape your personality or shape your behavior to an extent. So I think that's incredible. Having the conversation with friends, and it's like you literally to get where you want to be, you need to change your mind. Absolutely. And you need to soak up books and podcasts that are going to help you change your mind for the better. And to help you kind of implement that. So I think that's amazing. Talk to me about what's going on in Liberia. Like how much, it seems like getting financing and liquidity is an issue. What's the average project gonna cost? Like how much capital would you need to get to that next level?
Man, again, just starting off financing is a major issue. I mean, it is for most startups and businesses anywhere else in the world. But, in the U.S., you have the banking system where based on your credit score, your income, you can go to the bank and get a loan for something. But in Liberia, that system doesn't exist, right? So, for instance, to give an example, we try to go and get some financing for a project.
In Liberia?
In Liberia.
Gotcha.
And they were charging us 16% interest, right? So, charging me 16% interest, and then you're charging me 4% interest up front on that loan. So, and then I have to start paying back
that's 20%.
Yeah, tomorrow. I have to start paying back tomorrow. And then you're telling me that my time frame for this loan is only, as a new lender, is only as a new borrower rather, it's only 12 months, right? So it doesn't make sense, at all.
For a flip, that works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a bad hard money loan at 16%.
Exactly. Yeah.
But on a ground up construction, that's
exactly.
a tight timetable.
It kills your deal. And a lot of people are finding, a lot of entrepreneurs are getting into this type of financing because they have no other option. So, you know, the little lady that's trying to start her bakery or this man that's trying to start his coffee shop, you know, where does he even start paying back that loan, you know, within a span of a year after he's put so much into starting up the business? So, you know, it's a huge problem. There are not a lot of commercial banks. There aren't any commercial banks who can lend on a long-term basis. There are no mortgage programs or anything like that. So, you know, it's showing us that, you know,
there's an opportunity for that.
There's an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, and I think with a lot of what's happening in digital currency and financing, you know, Africa is wide open because Africa needs to leapfrog, right? So Africa does not have the luxury like America did to go through, you know, different phases, right? So literally we need to go from where we are now into digital currency. We need to go from where we are now. We're all using smartphones. We didn't go through the phases where we use a sidekick and we use this and that. The content is literally leapfrogging. And I think the financial market is something where technology needs to play a huge part into how Africa is developing from a financial standpoint, because there's so many great business entrepreneurs that need supporting, so many great business ideas that need supporting, but they just don't have the financial backing in order to be able to do so. So I think the future of Africa it's going to be the financial markets. How do you rewrite the financial markets that are, you know, that are basically predators on young entrepreneurs who are currently in the market and stagnate growth and basically help create monopolies for larger corporations and wealthy individuals who have the capital to do what they want to do.
Got it. So with that finance issue, what's your take on Bitcoin?
Man,
and can Bitcoin help that area? Right.
I think Bitcoin can absolutely help that area. I think, you know, Liberia is rich in resources. It's rich in natural resources. So I think if you're looking at, you know, what are digital currencies? What can you back your digital currencies with? You know, a market like Liberia has any possible natural resource that, you know, that you can think of. The government is struggling in ways to be able to raise revenue, right? So the government doesn't even know how do they go out and get more money. You can't squeeze people out of taxes from it. You're already tapping out the big companies that are in the country, but you have a country that's so untapped and rich with so many opportunities. And, you know, and I've heard conversations of some people before who were talking about, hey, how do we bring in digital currency into the market? You know, I think the powers that be, the old heads they don't understand it. So they don't even want to hear it. But, you know, you're hearing younger people who are trying to get into politics who are talking about these things that I've been hearing. I'm like, man, this makes sense. This is literally the future. And these are things that we need to start doing. And I think it's great that Bitcoin is now being recognized by top corporations. Bitcoin is an accepted payment method for a lot of big companies now. And I think that's waking up other parts of the world to say, man, I think this is the real deal. This is something that's going to transform the world. And I think in the next few years, I think the African countries that adapt digital currency, be it Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever the case may be, are going to be the ones that are going to tremendously leapfrog. And I'm hoping Liberia plays into that in some way or another. Yeah.
If you had to say, like, what percentage of Liberia is unbanked, where they don't have banking access to whatever reason?
Man, I would say a good 70% of the country.
So at that very point, right, El Salvador, 70% of people are unbanked, right? The banks get created to quote unquote help the people, but the barrier to get access to, what if you live in the country and you have no transportation? They create barriers themselves to financial liquidity and access.
Exactly.
So that's a problem. So here comes Bitcoin, and it solves that problem, especially from a global perspective. So much so that El Salvador rolls Bitcoin out as legal tender. So all you need is a smartphone and Bitcoin, and essentially you become your own bank, right? You no longer need the bank. If I want to transact value with you while you're in America or Liberia, I send and receive to the same address. There is no third party. no one's going to stop that transaction because I have the value and I'm sending it to you, or vice versa. I know traditionally when you send money, if you had to send money to Africa, you would either Western Union it, or it would have to skip through 2 or 3 banks, right? And the current banking system, I mean, payments get hung up 5, 10, 14 days, funds get lost. It's so inefficient. And then even with that, if you go to withdraw more than $10,000, essentially the FBI will be there, right? The head of the bank comes out. What are you doing with all this money, Bleejay? And so I love that Bitcoin doesn't care about any of that, and it doesn't have to deal with any of that. And especially in a remittance standpoint, instead of sending via Western Union taking 5-10%, and then someone having to travel to a Western Union to get the money, and then having to deal, maybe it's an unsafe community, right? It's a neighborhood who wants to leave a place with $5,000 USD. Exactly. Right? That's a problem. And then a bus ride back. So Bitcoin, it's like you can transact directly to the person. And then with the Strike app, you can convert that immediately to USD or whatever coin of choice, or you can hold it in Bitcoin.
It's crazy, man. It's the future.
Here's level 2 with liquidity, Bitcoin, and you needing capital. There are services where you can have Bitcoin, you can collateralize your Bitcoin and get liquidity in USD. So you can get, $50,000 loan if you had $200,000 of Bitcoin. You get a 12-month term. Maybe you pay 8% interest. It's essentially a hard money loan with no credit check. But now you got $50,000 to, renovate a property that you acquire. You pay the loan back throughout the term, or just before. You pay interest every month, but you pay it off before 12 months. You get your Bitcoin back. I think in the future, there'll be longer terms and more competitive rates, right? If I can remortgage my house for 3% and I can get literally USD almost for free, it needs to be the terms need to be as good with Bitcoin if Bitcoin is this scarce digital gold that the world needs, right? So that's another way Bitcoin can play a role in, liquidity and financing there.
A huge role.
So yeah, we'll talk about that. Let's talk about maybe a moment in LA when, you felt like your back was on the wall. You just jumped ship, right? You went from Massachusetts straight to LA at what age?
Man, I think I was 25? 25.
Yeah, going to work for a private jet business with a bunch of older dudes, mostly white dudes. Mostly white dudes, right? How intimidated are you? Where are you living? Are you staying with a friend at that point, or?
Yeah, man. So, I knew coming out of college, I didn't have the money to go and
who pay
to
live in LA?
Whatever
LA
rent
prices,
it was.
right?
It was crazy in LA. So I decided, I said, okay, how do I work the system? Right. So how do I work the system? So I took a credit less my senior year. And when I got hired for that job, I was a few credits short. Even though I walked for graduation, I still needed couple credits to finish, right? So I decided to do that semester abroad. So I went through the semester abroad program, the student exchange program, rather, not semester abroad, student exchange program. And then I paired up with the school out in LA. So, so
perfect.
So I did that and I said, okay, let me take my last couple credits here. So at least I can get housing. I can stay on campus. So I flipped the whole student housing thing and I did that. I was like, okay, at least I can go through, get financial aid, some form of financial aid. I can stay on campus.
Buys you time.
While I'm working, it buys me time to kind of get my life and stuff together. So that's kind of how I flipped that.
Now, were you living on credit cards at that point or?
No.
Okay.
No. Cool. So, cause
you had mentioned it was a commission-based job. So I know people who go to LA with $20 in their pocket and a dream, and they grind it out.
Facts.
And figure it out.
Facts. Yeah, so, man. I mean, like I said, my boss had created incentives for me for cold calling and things like that. So I was hitting all those metrics because I'm like, this, I'm gonna get some money in my pocket. I didn't want to call back home to mom and dad and say, hey, I'm struggling. Whatever the case may be. It's the last call I want to be able to make. So I was finding ways to be able to make it happen, man. I had other side hustles while I was out there. Got myself some part-time job, on the side, and it just kept myself busy. There was no sleeping, for me whatsoever, man. So I stayed in the thick of things. It was, like we said, it was intimidating for me being out there.
What was the hardest moment out there?
Man, Man, it was,
What was that one moment where you're like, I should call my parents, but
bro. So it was crazy, man. So I had this deal I had been working on. Crazy story.
Off a cold call? Off a cold call?
No, it was off of an event.
Okay.
So I went to an event. A friend of mine from Worcester. Shout out to my man Javon Langford. Javon was out there in LA. Javon super plugged in already in LA, and Javon used to invite me to all these events and stuff. So went to an event, and I was just working a room. With I met a guy who was working with the X Factor and Kelly Rowland at the time. So told him what I did. We stayed in touch. He hit me up. I was cold calling, reached out to him, sent him a couple emails. He never responded. I responded one day, hey, you're still in the private jet business, right? Kelly Rowland needs private jet to be going back and forth from the X Factor UK.
Sweet.
And it's going to be crazy amount of flights a week, bro. I'm ecstatic. I got the whole office. I got the president of the company working on this deal with me. I'm working on it. Everything is going as planned. Everything's going as planned. So time to close the deal now. Hey, we sent the contract. Let's call today, Bleejay, to see if they can get the contract signed.
Do you remember what the deal was worth in USD terms?
Bro, I was probably making commission wise off of that deal.
Or even just total, like what was the cost to the client?
For the duration of the time that they need, I would say it was probably gonna be like $500,000.
Okay, cool. $500,000 deal.
Yeah, $500,000 deal. Hey. So and I was good off of that. I'm like, this is finally the big break that I need. So call the client day one. They hadn't signed a contract yet. Day two, hadn't signed a contract yet. So get my boss involved. He's like, all right, let me make this call.
Yeah, let me close this deal.
Yeah, he calls. He's like, let me do this thing for you, Bleejay. Yeah. So he calls, and the guys are like, man, we love everything, all the options. We're ready to pull the trigger, but unfortunately, the X Factor decided that they will handle the transportation for the judges for Kelly. And that's how I lost that deal, bro. I mean, I was spent, and then this was doing like Thanksgiving, close to Thanksgiving weekend, right? So I think I'm going to go into my Thanksgiving weekend. And then on top of that, I have nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. I don't have any money to fly back to Massachusetts. I don't know anybody really out in LA. At that point, my man Javon, he's doing his own thing. And, and Thanksgiving, I'm in the dorm room, no money to buy food. I think I probably just had enough to go to the vending machine and buy a honey bun from the vending machine or something. That was a real moment.
Listen, the power of broke.
Yep.
The power of broke. What happened to you in that moment and the things that you told yourself. Yeah. I'm sure you told yourself.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna make sure the next Thanksgiving I'm renting a mansion Airbnb and we popping bottles. Yeah. Right. I'm gonna be thankful for
facts.
You know what I mean? Like, and you think about, I can name 10 people right now who go from broke and hungry, climbing trees for fruit and eating mud to 7-figure net worth by 30, by 40. Right. There's something about being piss poor that gives people resilience and grit, man. Yeah. So I love when I see that. I love when I see it in immigrants for sure. Yeah. So a $500,000 deal falls apart. Tell me about the biggest deal that you've closed or one of your biggest successes.
So one of my biggest successes came when I left LA and left that company. So when I was working in LA, the whole private jet thing didn't pan out as well as I wanted it to pan out. I was attached to a couple of small deals.
Didn't become a private jet, Hollywood guy.
Nah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy, right? So there's a kid on Instagram right now. Call him like he flies Meek Mill's boy. Let's call him, what's his name, man? It's like PpkJets or something like kid from Ghana. And he's close to Diddy, Meek Mills, and he's doing all this jet stuff. And I remember back in the day when I was working at Apollo Jets in LA, they had wanted me to create like a private jet network of entertainers, rappers, and even like wealthy Africans. Right. So they're like, Bleejay, how do you create this stuff where we can get jets out to all these people? But at the time, it was like I didn't have the reach to be able to do that. Right. I didn't have all of the right people in my network to be able to create that. And then at the same time, I'm broke. Like I have to,
That's double the barrier.
you need money to get to certain places, right? So it's like there's certain events that I wanted to go to. I couldn't make it to the event because I didn't have the money to be able to make it to the event, right? So that was the frustrating part where I was like, man, I was on the verge of creating. And when I look at him on Instagram now, I'm like, man, this is crazy because this is what
could have been me.
This is what my man's the shout out to my man Andrew, the vice president of PpkJets at the time. Like, this is what Andrew wanted me to be. And I look at it and I'm like, man, this is crazy. And I'm like, and you see the support that this kid has around him that has helped him to create this success. And but I looked at that at the end of the day when I was at Apollo, I had to make a decision. I was at a point where I'm like, I'm grinding this thing out, but financially my semester was ending. I wasn't going to have the finances that I needed to put me into housing to keep living in LA. And at the time, the passion for trying to go back, there's an opportunity that came for me to try to go back to Liberia. First opportunity came for me to do some infrastructure work. And I entertained the opportunity. I was like, okay, this is going to be a salary. At least some money is going to be coming in. It broke my heart to try to leave LA. I went to my boss. I told him, I'm like, hey, Andrew, I appreciate everything you guys have done for me, but I promise you for the rest of my life, anything that I do, I will continue to find private jet customers for you and your company. Like, I don't care what industry I'm in, what I'm doing, if I start flying private,
of course.
I'll bring customers to you for the rest of your life, because he's like, please don't worry about it. But so.
And that's just loyalty. That's brand loyalty, man.
Crazy loyalty. So I got hired by this company out in DC. The opportunity to go to Liberia kind of fell apart. So I left LA, temporarily came to Massachusetts, back home with mom and dad, because I was supposed to be heading to Liberia in a month. The guy lost his funding for the company I was supposed to work for in Liberia. And now I'm in limbo again. I'm like, man, this I'm going from bad to worse. Like, I just left LA. I'm living the LA lifestyle at least. And I'm back in Massachusetts where it's snowing. Then I'm back in the house with mom and dad telling me, I told you so. And so I had an opportunity. A friend of mine who was in LA when I was doing my internship, she called me. She was working in DC with a company. She's like, I'm working for this real estate company. I think it'll be good for you while you figure out what you want to do. So I'm like, okay.
Gives you real estate exposure.
Yeah, getting real estate exposure. I applied. I got the job quickly. Boom, on a flight to DC.
I remember that. Yeah.
Now I'm moving to DC. I'm in DC now. One of the first things I did when I started working for this company, I went to the travel coordinator, head of travel. I'm like, hey, do the executives here fly private? She's like, once in a while, not really. I was like, but I work with a private jet company. I'm still have a relationship with them and get you a good deal.
Now you're just a channel partner at that point.
4 months into me working in this company, I get an email in my company email. Hey, Bleejay, the executives of our company have a trip to fly out to California. Can you connect me? Can you give me an option for like a jet that holds like 100 people or something like that?
I love it. Listen, to pause you right there, right? I listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast, and Brandon talks about like the power of putting stuff out there. So when someone asks you, how are you? You can say, oh, I'm good. Hey, by the way, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath if you know anything, right? You say that one little sentence and it just slips into everyone's subconscious. And anytime they come across any deal,
that's powerful.
They're going to text or email you. Literally, you're creating people to find the opportunity for you.
Absolutely.
Right? This dude did that. You know what he did? He said, hey, real estate's getting a little crazy, right? The market is just going up and up and up and up. And is it going to pop? Is it going to come down? Is it going to do this for another 10 years? We don't know. So in terms of real estate stability, they said, what's stable, right? Luxury apartments. Okay. What if there's, hard financial times? Will we still be at, 100% capacity? So they said, what about mobile home parks? Mobile home parks are always going to be good because people are always going to be poor and they're always going to need them. So that's going to be a stable financial asset. And also a way to, have that in your portfolio, and you can make it a good experience for your tenants and stuff. And so he says that, he says, hey, if anyone knows, I think he was on another podcast, like, oh, if anyone knows of any mobile home deals, let me know. And, I think he had a goal to have like 1 or 2 parks by the end of the year. I think he has like 5. He creates this whole subsidiary company where anyone can, it's kind of like that roof stock idea where you can invest into his company as long as you're accredited, right?
Okay.
But just the power of, asking people for things, goes a very long way. You asked for that jet business. She kept it in her mind, and you
It's real.
Did you close the deal or was
we closed the deal.
So you got paid on that?
Yeah, I got paid
Amazing,
on that.
man.
I got paid on that, man. It was such a surreal moment.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm just starting at the company. I'm in another sales position at this new company, even though salaried. I'm in another sales position. And that literally, the money I made from that commission, it jump started me. I was staying with my sister when I went to DC. So this helped me put a down payment down for my apartment. It helped me, do some other things, put some money away, save some of it, and do some other things that I wanted to be able to do, man. So, and from that period, there's been some other smaller deals that I've sent to PpkJets that have closed as well. And, to this day, I'm always looking out if somebody wants a private jet in some type of way. Absolutely. That relationship is always there. And I mean, there's
channel partner at that point.
I mean, and it's a relationship now, the VP of that company, he sees me as a friend and a brother. And he sees my elevation and my growth. And, he respects the loyalty and he's so excited about it. And I think it just goes to show, man, sometimes you can be in a space where you want something so much, but you shut the door closed because you're not building relationships and you're not thinking about where in the world am I going to meet up with this person again? Where in the world is my name going to come up? Where am I going to miss this opportunity? And for me, I'm always thinking, hey, even if you and I part ways today, I know that you were put in my life for a reason. I know this opportunity came in my life for a reason. And that's how I think, at the end of the day. So, everywhere I am, anything that I do, I know it happens for a reason. And I think, like you said, I consistently tell my story. I consistently put myself out there. And if it comes back, it comes back. If it's delayed, I know some way or another it's going to come back and, it's going to be to my benefit.
Absolutely. Bleejay, this has been a joy. It's good to catch up. It's good to hear, the fine details of your journey. I see it, from a glance on LinkedIn and Facebook. But I know you're doing great. Let the people know where they can find you on social.
Yeah, so I'm on almost every major social media platform. Number one place to connect professionally is LinkedIn. So my name on LinkedIn, Bleejay Innis, Bleejay Innis. The same name on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram at Mr. Mr_Innis. My last name Innis. So reach out, let's collaborate, man. I'm someone who I love meeting new people. I love experiencing new things. I love introducing my culture and what I do to other people. And I'm looking to build with new partners, and I'm always opening the door to be a sponge to learn and for people to be able to learn from me too. So reach out to me if you're interested in anything that I've discussed, and and you want to find ways for us to be able to take over the world together.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you, brother.
Looking forward to seeing you soon.
I appreciate it, brother.